like we can access all sorts of feelings if we allow them to surface. People say things like, I'm a good person, or, well, it's like, actually, you're everything. You are capable of everything.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Life Choices podcast.
Yeah! We sat beside each other, and honestly, I don't remember how the conversation started. I have a knack for just talking to strangers, even though we were told not to when we were kids. And I find that I meet the most interesting people when I do so.
Yeah, the airport is the full equalizer, I guess. You don't know who you're going to sit next to. I mean, I remember I sat next to you, and you were decked out in your Life Choices swag.
Yeah,
like, who's this guy?
24/7. Yeah. Now, like, I just got back, so I just bought a bunch of these. And every time I go travel, I always revert back to the most genuine me. Not that I'm not that person regularly, but when I go to Thailand, it absorbs me in a way that my energy is the absolute best. And it just kind of it just affirms the fact of what I'm planning on doing in the next 2 years, which would be moving there full time to live. I'm just happier there. And every time I come back, I'm of this, like, everyone sees me like, oh my God, you look so relaxed. You look so chill. And the funny thing is, and I said this on the episode before, yes, I am, but I worked my ass off when I was away on vacation. So it's like, it's so interesting how when you're truly doing something that you love, it still allows you to do it in a way that you seem just so chill.
Yeah, you can be authentically yourself, and but still feel the drive to pursue what you want. You know, I did not expect this to be my life or the trajectory. I knew as a young guy that I would be a performer, or that I loved being in front of people. I'm an actor. I'm a performer at heart. Love being on stage, but I'm also a musician at heart. So I guess when I do think, like, it's easy to justify our lives and be like, it's not exactly what I wanted, but we actually end up doing sort of what we wanted. I've always wanted to be in a band, always wanted to make arrangements, wanted to play for as many people as possible, work internationally, I guess. And it's only in retrospect that I'm able to, like, times like now, actually appreciate what it's like. So it feels pretty good. Don't have to have a Joe job. I can do what I love.
We as humans absolutely justify everything, right? Like, oh, I paid this much for that, but I can justify it because I do this and that. You dreamed of being in a band. You dreamed of being a performer, and no, you're not part of Kiss, right? You're not part of Led Zeppelin, right? But like you're saying, in retrospect, when you look back at everything that you do have and where you came from, you have accomplished the dream of being part of a band, because, I mean, you're part of a fucking orchestra, basically. If you're doing live theater and theatrical performances, there's tons of musicians and actors all together. And you were able to somehow, by the choices you've made throughout your journey, do both of them, be a performer and be a musician at the same time. And what a great feeling. Like, I mean, I can contest to this, like, not having that Monday to Friday 9 to 5, which, you know, I don't mean to put it down to other people. Sure as shit ain't for me. You know, and to live that life where I have to imagine work is still work. There's still long hours. There's still days that you go without sitting down and putting your feet up because you have to get work done. But it's different. We were able to grow up in a time where we're told you have to go after the white picket fence and the 2.4 kids and all that other, you know, stuff that our parents wonderfully were able to have and do. But here we are living a life that we can actually look back and say, yeah, I'm living everything that I ever dreamt about.
I uploaded, actually, recently. I was in back home with my brother, with my whole family, and we three brothers, we recorded a song together, which, like, is just the older I get, the more I realize just how special that is. But we were always encouraged to just do do what felt right. The reason I loved university was because of what my mom said. She's like, you're going to find your people. It does to just go for the experience, like to have that privilege to go. And so the radio show that I started called Musical ADD, that was before I was diagnosed as an adult with ADHD, which is very funny. But I called my radio show Musical ADD because of all my tastes and like, an eclectic taste in music. Joined the choir, ultimate Frisbee team, had my first serious girlfriend, started the band. We played for beer, played parties, like all these extracurriculars is what it was like, oh my God, it's like really just follow what you're interested in. And then I had to pass the courses to stay. And
That was always the tricky part.
yeah. And my dad said, university is like some people know they want their track. They go into business because they want to be in business. But I think the best thing is like you go to university so you can prove that you can start and finish something. You can.
I love how you just said that. University or schooling in itself, to me, is just the ability to have. You're able to show someone out in the world, if you're going to go get a job, that you have the ability to show up on time. You have the ability to accomplish tasks that may be asked of you to do. And that's really all that I think school is there for. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so, because people like yourself and I who are creatives, we tend not to be that great at the maths and the science, which right now we're being told that the maths may not actually be correct because there's a bit of an issue with them. But being good at creating and being you is more important than did I get an A plus in biology. If you're not going to become a doctor, it doesn't seem like it's that important.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I've learned is that like I'm good at math when I need to be, or like if it matters, I'll put in the work. Like I'll sweat. I'm sure like you're a chef, and so the math in terms of like timing, in terms of measurements, like it's science, right? It's literal like chemistry. Um, I'm working with like time signatures. I'm working with rhythm. So there's so much math involved in music. And then I'm also working with like spreadsheets where we're trying to cover like if someone goes out and we got to put in another performer and then this person covers that person, like all of a sudden we're looking at like these weird matrices that make me want to tear my beard out.
Yes.
But it's because I'm motivated. Like the end goal is like music. The end goal is like affecting an audience. The end goal is collaboration, teamwork. That for me is like, I'm happy to do math in that case.
We were just taught it, I think, in the wrong form. We were being taught math in a math room based on if you were going to become someone that's using geometry, let's say, instead of opening it up to a more broader scheme and being like, oh, this person's a music student. Okay, well, how does math relate to a music student? Like you're saying, there's certain examples that you do math every day. Absolutely. I didn't know when I was in high school I was going to cook for the majority of my life, and didn't realize that science was going to be that big of a deal when baking is absolutely, you've got to be scientific about it. But you're right. When you love to do something, you find the ability to apply yourself in that fashion. I love what you said about how it's a privilege. Two things. The privilege that it is. Yes, I too was very privileged to have two parents that stayed together, that made a decent amount of money, that I had a roof over my head, food on the table, and clothes on my back all the time. Never went without any of those things. So I thank God. I thank my parents every day for those things. I love how you said the privilege of going to university, which isn't always necessarily about knowing your path and knowing exactly what it is you want to do. Because let's be honest, again, I'll say it, I'm 46 and I'm venturing down another new path in my life.
Fantastic.
This is probably the third or fourth major leap into a different industry that I had no knowledge about before. But you said finding your people. At that time in your life of being a 20-something-year-old person, or even younger if you go straight out of high school, you're 18, 19, going into university. And hey, let's be honest, it might not be about getting the grades and becoming whatever it is you set out to be. Get the grades you need to pass to show that you can handle the workload. But absolutely, join a club, join a band, join anything meet other people, learn to fall and fail so that you can become the individual that, at least in the 20s, that you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. I think people are, it's just a common trait to have put high expectations on yourself, or to be given like you've got expectations from your parent. If you're going into something all negative, if you're going in feeling like, oh, I've got to make somebody proud to do this, that can hinder you in a way. It's not going to, it'll close you off to the truth of the opportunities that are like going to speak to you. And so it's like, oh, I'd love to join, I don't know, the ultimate Frisbee team, but I got to study for this business degree because my dad's a banker, and I got to, and all of a sudden you don't know the experience of like laying out horizontal and catching a disc and
Barefoot.
being barefoot, like a mouthful of grass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could have gone without the mouthful of grass, I guess, but there's we put up walls that don't necessarily need to be there, especially.
Dude,
Yeah,
I 100% chased after trying to make my father proud for multiple decades. I can admit that, and it was unfortunate because I did, not saying that I didn't, like, I did a lot of shit for myself, and I did a lot of partying, and I did a lot of experimenting, but there was an element of like right out of high school, I went right into college, and I shouldn't have. I was not prepared for that at all, and the only reason why I went was because my father said that's the next step. There wasn't that, and maybe my fault, there wasn't that open conversation about, hey, Dad, I don't think I'm ready for something like college. I think I would do better going into the workforce right now to see what real world's like. Never had that. Might be my fault for not opening that conversation.
You did the best you could with what you had. You're 19. To have any type of like worldview in terms of what you need, I think there's many factors that are going to influence the decisions you make. But like, yeah, if I could hope for anything for anybody, it would be to be given the space to explore and to nurture what they're naturally good at, because nobody ever arrives at where they want to be.
I talked about this last week about grounding. You said you were part of Ultimate Frisbee and barefoot, and like what we used to do back then was quite interesting. Do you find the way you were when you were a child and the way you are now, how much are you no longer doing? The things that you were doing when you were a kid, now, how many of those things do you not do at all anymore?
That's a really good question. The first thing that came to mind was like, they're just naturally goofy, naturally the class clown. And I think before the joke became a tool to ingratiate myself with someone, the joke was to see a smile on somebody's face. That is a discovery that I'm coming back into, where because I'm an actor, I've commodified my ability to make somebody laugh, physical humor, commodified a joke, commodified music so I can live, so I can make a livelihood out of it. And that has overshadowed what the real reason was for like the childlike joy of making somebody smile or laugh. And when I'm like in good form on stage or with people, that's the goal, or that's the joy. That's like the ironically selfish joy in, like, if you can affect an audience in an authentic way. Like, we all know that if you, there's rhythms to jokes, like you can do a setup, and then say the thing. And that, it gives the audience a reason to laugh, even though they don't really understand why they're laughing. They're like, it's just sort of learned behavior. If you pause before you say the button of a joke, people might not get the joke, but they might laugh just because groupthink. If that's not what you're doing, but you're actually authentically in the moment, in the shit with everybody, and the goal is to bring happiness, bring joy, like a kid, Like a kid is innocence. A kid is, they're not concerned necessarily if they look like a ding dong.
I'm not worried about
They,
the consequences or the reaction after the fact. They're just in the moment. Being a child,
yeah.
I feel like you're until you're older and realize the importance of being present. As a
Mm.
child, you just seem to be, because you're not worried about tomorrow. You're literally having fun today because it's important to have fun today.
Yeah, you've got no context, or everything is new.
Mm.
I love the idea, the exponential quickening of time, because relative to the life we've lived, like an hour is like a smaller fraction of our life. Whereas a kid, like an hour, like 5 minutes is like a day, because everything is rich, everything is new. So for me, that's the dragon I'm chasing. That's what a practice, I guess, that I'm trying to
Well,
rediscover. That
I like the good, positive selfishness that you're talking about, because I always say that there's positive selfishness and negative selfishness, and what you're
Mm,
saying, positively selfish, is wanting that desire to give someone, like, to change someone's emotions through your own goofiness, right? That keeps you childlike. That keeps the happiness within you, because you're remembering what it was like to be a child, and you're able to then express that to other people and change their emotions, which in turn hopefully is a positive reaction of laughing and giggling, which when you get to that hysteric laughter, you kind of almost, without thinking about it, get taken back to your childhood.
right.
17, a weekend seemed forever. In mid
Mm,
high school, let's say 15, 2 days off seemed like an eternity. Friday night after school until Monday morning. Not now, I just took a 3 week vacation, and it was like 2 seconds, and I was back in my other reality.
right.
It's crazy. It comes to it brings a thought to my head of something I came across recently, which is, everyone says find someone that you can grow old with,
Mm,
but the truth of the matter is find someone that you can stay a child with.
that's
Because
beautiful.
think about, when I came across this, I was like, to stay young with someone, to be goofy and silly and fart and make jokes, and just do those silly things that everyone does anyways, but be able to find someone to do that with, and to think like, oh, maybe I have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 more years of being foolishly childish in a fun, positive way with this individual. I think you'll just live better.
Yeah, man. Underneath all those layers, and like if you peel back the onion, that's truly what we are. That's truly what we are. Is like uh, new every day. Like what is it? Child mind. Like
Mhm.
uh, we you accrue the algorithms of life. Like you, everything, like decorum, like how to behave in society. There's rules, language, um, but underneath it all is still like the
But why
whatever it is.
why are there those rules?
I mean, we have to live with other people. I think
Yeah,
not, humans, we're social beings. We do need each other. We need each other. Uh, Humans do not exist alone on an island. Um, and unfortunately, in today's world, especially with like technology, there are people think they're together, but they're actually apart. They're in an echo chamber.
but that's why
Uh,
I'm saying these rules that we've been told that we have to have in order to be social with each other. When you find your person, when you find your people, right, and you're behind closed doors within your own environment, you're
mm,
able to not necessarily abide by all those normal rules. I'm going to take the very simple thing is farting, right?
yeah,
Everyone farts in this world, right? But
true.
in public, it's frowned upon. You're not supposed to do it out loud. You just say, oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm embarrassed. But when you're with your person, let's just say you're at home in bed, a little fart comes out, you giggle,
I love
right?
it.
I think
Yes.
it's hilarious. So that this is where I have these conversations of like, Why do I have to adhere to these rules of this particular, let's call it matrix of the world, when in my own reality, my own world, my own environment that I have created, which has all of my happiness, I do the things I want to do. I do the job I want to do. I make the money I want to make. I have the loves in my life that I want, the friendships I have. And in those particular things, like when I'm hanging out with my roommate, I don't ask her to leave the room. If I fart, I fart. And I keep bringing that up because it's such a silly little thing that every human does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think people should be like, if we're just talking about farts, I think everyone should be allowed to fart. I think people, if you are kind and, like the golden rule, like do unto others as you would do unto yourself. I truly believe that's one of the best maxims to have, unless you're bringing a lot of pain to yourself. Um, I think what we as humans need is easing of pain. Is we need solace, we need sanctuary, we need support. But because of fear, people protect, and then they, because they're afraid. When in fact, the solution is generosity or vulnerability.
When you care to uplift others and you truly want to be happy with helping others, I mean, it just changes everything. And you're 100% correct. As long as you're being kind, as long as you adhere to the simple truths, don't kill, don't steal, respect your elders, do unto others as you wish done unto you, as long as you are doing good to you. And to build communities of knowing it's okay to be vulnerable. That's what we do. We share our own intimate vulnerability with others so that they can see that it's totally fine feeling this way, talking this way, being this way. Because like you said, we're all human, right? We all have to be social with each other, and even on a bigger scale, because technology allows us to associate with people on the other side of the world through something as simple as our laptop. But while you're being able to do that, you also need to show that everyone else is not alone. We are all human. We all feel, we all smell, we all taste, we all, hopefully, these are all things I hope we all have, to show others that it's okay to be a certain way, which is showing your own vulnerability, can only do one thing but help others. And if you're helping others, how can that not create a much bigger and better community?
I completely agree. Yeah.
No one really truly did. Maybe some, but most people don't give you the memo about how difficult and challenging life is going to become when you now have responsibilities. And I'm talking like not just paying your bills, but like when you start involving other people in your lives and you have to think about how your actions and reactions affect other people's daily lives. That's a lot to deal with. And if during our journey we're able to remember how fun it was when we were younger, riding our bicycle to the corner store to go buy a chocolate milk and maybe a bag of chips, those tougher days might be easier if we can remember what that once was like.
Oh man, it's so true. Like my wife and I, we do this thing now where like our brains are wired to constantly look for danger. And we're always looking for the anxiety, like we're hardwired. That's what our natural. We're trying to keep safe, but our world isn't as dangerous as it was like 100,000 years ago. So we have this active practice where some poet, I forgot his name, but the world not only is like full of darkness, but it is constantly trying to delight us as well. And all we have to do is be aware of that. And when some delight happens, no matter how small, how big, you say it out loud and you go delight. For example, we were sitting on our balcony last night. She had candles going. I was playing chess on my phone. She was reading a book, and she just said delight, which then allowed me to be like, even though I was like down a rook in a night and like losing the chess game, I'm sitting next to the person I love the most in the world. We're looking over beautiful Vancouver. It's warm enough outside. We live in a peaceful place in the world, food in the fridge, like all of a sudden a flood of delight, like, and all because she marked it. And I was able to like, huh. So that practice makes me think of what you're talking about. Like definitely riding the bike to the corner store, get a bag of chips, delight.
I
This
love that.
delight.
This
Just
is
jazz.
amazing. Absolutely. Yes. And I love that practice. I'm going to add that, with my girlfriend when I call her later on today. I got to wake her up at 7 a.m. her time, which is 8 p.m. my time.
Oh
But I'm
man.
going to add that practice to our day because I absolutely love that because it literally draws the other person into being present. Because like you said, you were in your reality of doing your chess game. She just, one word, delight. And all of a sudden it opened up the floodgates for you to realize all that you have around you, which is so delightful. I love that practice. The biggest thing that I'm realizing now, and I obviously just after coming back from a trip, I was barefoot as much as possible. I mean, I was naked
Wow.
as much as possible, like I was truly just being human.
Fully grounded.
Oh, fully. Yeah, yeah. And to the point where like, if I was able to be barefoot and hug a tree, I did it because we are not meant to have 2-inch thick rubber soles on our feet 24/7. And if you think about it nowadays, even in your own house, like, I mean, I wear slippers, I wear slides all the time. And just as much as we need the sun, we need that nourishment for our soul and our body, our energy, we also need to be in contact with the earth. And to be barefoot on a beach, in a forest, I keep repeating myself, but I used to run along the road, or the front yard and down the street to the mailbox without shoes on. And it
Yeah.
didn't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to vacation in like the 𝐾𝐽,
Mm-hmm.
which we still do. And the first week of the summer, it was about leathering up your feet, is what we'd say. So we'd like, because you're either you're at the cottage or then you're in the boat, but you didn't have to wear shoes anywhere. Like the whole community, like the corner store, like shoes were
There were no
confining.
there were no signs, must have shirt and shoes to come in. There
Yeah,
just
I
was.
remember the test for me was like I could run amongst the juniper bushes barefoot and the prickly, like by mid-July, my feet were like moccasins.
And wasn't it so much fun?
Yeah.
That's one of those things I always tell people, that when life is getting tough, you need to absorb the emotion that you're feeling. It's important to actually appreciate whether it's a good or bad emotion. You should appreciate what it is for the moment that it's happening. But
Mm.
I have so many memories that I started in the past year to re-remember in my youth that created such a wonderful, healthy, happy feeling within me, so that whenever moments of depression or anxiety or stress come into my head, because regardless how many practices I have, regardless how high energy and great vibration I might be on, these
Mhm.
emotions will still come into your life. You're a human being. That's just what, and sometimes you don't even know why. It's just there. But when it does, I take that moment of being present and think of going to camp and running from the cabin to the mess hall barefoot. And literally remembering as an 8-year-old how skinny, small, tiny, foolish I was, but running the whole way down that gravel road and hopping on the grass, hopping on the gravel where you had to, and getting to the mess hall and having lunch. Like, I mean, just filling my whole soul up with happiness. And then
Fantastic.
all of a sudden that negative thought is,
Oh, that's such a great practice. That's so good to have because there's no shortage of memories and experiences that we had that ha- that we can access.
mm-hmm,
It's just a matter of remembering them and knowing that it's okay to we were happy once, you know,
Yeah.
we were joyful. I heard somebody say, there's a guy I've been listening to, Jack Kornfield. He's a Buddhist. And he was saying, the mistake we make is that we identify with the emotion that is passing through our awareness, as opposed to identifying with the awareness that the emotion is passing through.
I like that.
So like I'm sad. That's me identifying with the emotion, as opposed to, oh, there's sadness. Oh, there's curiosity. So there's this other, what is that? It's like the kid. We are observing the thinking mind, as opposed to being the thinking mind. And for me, that's been very helpful, even though I'm like, there's sadness, still sadness, breathing in it, sadness, curiosity about the sadness. There's love. Like emotion is motion, right? The mistake is identifying with it and ossifying it. Like, I'm sad. And then you are loyal to your sadness. You are like, who am I without my sadness? Therefore I must keep the sadness, or keep the anger, keep the anxiety. Because if I am not that, then I don't know who I am. Yeah. Well, actually, you're what's behind it. You're like the observer.
This is literally how I live my life now. And in so many episodes, I have shared with people the important practice of, when the emotion comes over, whether it's happy or sad, whether it's positive or negative, you have to take the moment to appreciate what it is. And I say this so many times. If I feel sadness today, maybe a little bit, and I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal. I'm okay with it. But then tomorrow I feel a little more. I'm like, okay, you know what? I probably need to sit and appreciate the sadness. So I'll go and find a movie that makes me sad, that just creates that emotion. And I will, and it could be a sad movie. It could be the underdog wins, and that makes me sad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what type of movie, but I know that I'm going to go sit for 2 hours and cry. I'm going to allow that sadness to come out of my body, because it's an emotion. And like you're saying, emotion, it's emotion. So it has to go somewhere. If it's coming in, it has to go out. So why not take the time to allow it to go out, appreciate it. Don't let it consume you. Do not let it become your identity, but let it go out, and then go back to being the other emotion that's coming up next.
That's right.
And I love sharing that thought with people. On that note, we'll still talk a little bit after this, but I'm just going to say thank you very much for coming on to the Life Choices podcast, for all of the viewership and the community out there that come by each and every week here on the Life Choices podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week here, Tuesday at 2 p.m.
You are now about
The Journey, Life Choices podcast.